Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of UnPontificated. And today we're tackling what may be the most important question facing Canada's Conservative Party. In my opinion, should Pierre Poilievre remain leader? Or should the Conservatives begin looking for someone new? This isn't a question about loyalty. We all know that Conservative Party has a history of getting rid of leaders who don't win. Think of Erin O'Toole or Andrew Scheer. But the Conservatives have stuck with Pierre Poilievre as of now, even after losing the big lead that he had under Justin Trudeau to Mark Carney. But this isn't a question about loyalty. It isn't even a question about whether or not Pierre Poilievre has been a good opposition leader. I believe he has. It's a question about one thing: winning. Politics is a results business. If your objective is to form government, then every difficult conversation has to begin with one uncomfortable question. Who gives the Conservatives the best chance to defeat the Liberals in the next election? So let's look at the evidence. When Pierre Poilievre became Conservative leader, he completely transformed the political landscape. He had a disciplined message. It was simple, and he spoke very, how should I put it? He spoke very well about his message. It was a very disciplined message, and it resonated with all of us. He spoke about inflation, he spoke about housing, he spoke about crime, government spending, the carbon tax. We all know the message. What was it? Axe the tax. The cost of living. It was very disciplined. And in fact, the Liberals, even talk about him as slogans and all that stuff. And you try to use that against him with all his slogans, is what they said. And Pierre's message worked. It worked against Justin Trudeau. The Trudeau Liberals, his message was very concise and he stuck with it. And for nearly 2 years, it looked inevitable that the Conservatives were going to form their next government. And we were all excited, all as Conservatives. I am a Conservative, if you don't know. We're excited that we're going to get rid of Justin Trudeau, who I believe is the worst Prime Minister Canada has ever had, certainly in my 41 years, or 42 years of being in this country. So, poll after poll showed the Conservatives enormous Conservative leads. Many political commentators, all of them, believed that Trudeau's time was done. And even the polls, obviously, showed that Trudeau's time was done. Showed enormously. It's all the polls, Abacus, Nanos, you name it. We were moving now towards a Conservative government. And then everything just changed. Donald Trump returned to the White House. And he kept spouting off, we all know, 51st state. Canada has been, cheating us. Tariffs on Canada's this, Canada's that. Justin Trudeau actually went down to Mar-a-Lago to talk to Trump before even Trump became, before Trump officially took office. Trudeau went down to Mar-a-Lago. Actually, and I actually praised him for that. It was a good move. You got to go down and speak to Trump. That was okay. But the landscape changed. The landscape changed when Trump came in, because now it was about Trump. Who's the best person to deal with Trump? Enter Mark Carney. The Liberal Party changed leaders, because even with Trump in there, Trudeau still was not worth it for Canadians. Pierre Poilievre still had huge leads in the polls. But once Mark Carney came in, took over, became our prime minister, even just by being the Liberal Party leader. Um, that was it. We had the election April 28th, and that was that. Wow. It was historic, a historic drop for Pierre Poilievre in the polls. Historic drop from the highs of 25-point lead to just losing the election. The problem is Canadians viewed Mark Carney different from Justin Trudeau. Same Liberal Party, but two different personalities. Carney arrived with a great resume. Former governor of the Bank of Canada, former governor of the Bank of England, experience managing financial crises, number 2008, connections with world leaders, highly respected in the government. And for many Canadians, even just the moderate voters, well, the ones who would switch either way, he looked like someone prepared to deal with someone like Donald Trump, someone who was just unpredictable. You didn't know which way the wind was blowing with the guy. Mark Carney is the guy to deal with him, so everyone thought. And whether that perception is justified, it's just beside the point. Perception is reality, and perception wins elections. Reality, as we're seeing now, is just irrelevant. People still, to this point, believe that Mark Carney is doing the right thing, is still the man for the job. So what has Mark Carney done since becoming prime minister? Well, he's certainly traveled extensively. He's been very active. He's been busy. No one can deny that. He's traveled extensively. He's announced agreements, MOUs with provinces and other foreign governments. He's talked about economic growth. He's talked about energy development. He's talked about national defense, trade diversification. He's knocked down trade barriers between provinces, federal trade barriers between provinces. He's got the major infrastructure projects going. There's a new bureaucracy, what's it called? Major infrastructure, whatever it's called, to decide what project to do, including pipeline. Just last week, he and there in Alberta, signing the deal for the pipeline to go along TMX there to the south. So he's looking busy. It looks like things are happening. Things are flying. Things are going on. And he's certainly repositioned the party. The Liberal Party has gone from more left than the NDP. That's where Justin Trudeau took it. And he's brought it right to the center. So he actually almost looks, he's almost to the center, almost a little bit right of center, because there's not much differentiation between Pierre Poilievre's policies and Mark Carney's policies. They're almost the same. He's basically stolen Pierre's. So it's hard now for Pierre to differentiate the party from the Liberal Party and what he's doing. And this is resonating with the Canadian public. The polls still showing a huge lead on the preferred prime minister, still showing a huge lead on preferred party. And people still don't mind what Mark Carney is doing. They're still saying that Canada is somewhat on the right direction. So now, if there's an election, it becomes less about policy, because both the Liberals and the Conservatives are almost the same policy. Now, it's more about leadership. It's about who Canadians believe is the better leader. And these two leaders, Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, are not the same. There's a differentiation there now between leadership and leadership style, and who people believe can lead Canada going forward. Canada continues to face economic challenges. Growth has been weak. We're in a technical recession. Housing affordability remains a major problem. We're still struggling with grocery prices and high standard of living. The deficit remains significant and just keeps climbing. Federal spending, wow. I mean, it's not, I think it's good that we're spending more on the military. I think we do need to become self-sufficient in defending ourselves. But can we just print money to pay for this stuff? Or do we need to grow the economy to pay for this stuff? So, I mean, our productivity is still, still lagging. We're just not being productive. So as we spend more in military, as we spend more on these grocery, what did you call it? The GST rebate has increased, and then that one-time sum that they added for groceries, people were getting $400, $500 a one-time deal. I forget what he called it now, but we're doing these spending things to appease, to help, they say. But can we afford that? Our deficit is astronomical right now. Yet, despite all these challenges, despite what every Canadian knows is a problem, Mark Carney continues to outperform Pierre Poilievre in many leadership polls. And that's just a political reality that we conservatives just can't ignore. We just can't ignore that. So here's the question. If the Conservatives are trailing today and the numbers persist, he just continues to trail, they just don't improve. Should we replace our leader now? Should the Conservatives replace the leader now, or should we stay the course? Should we just stay the course? I believe there are three kind of realistic paths, three paths that we could take. One, change the leader now. I mean, this is the boldest option. Can you imagine saying dumping Pierre Poilievre now? People would have a field day. But sometimes you got to go bold, right? So if the Conservatives believe that Pierre Poilievre just can't defeat Mark Carney, it's just not going to happen, then waiting accomplishes nothing, right? Changing leaders today will give the next conservative leader nearly 3 years before the next scheduled election. I mean, Mark Carney can call one anytime, I guess, but we're scheduled to have an election in 2029. If you change the leaders now, go look for someone who can now have 3 years, almost 3 years, to showcase themselves, then doing it now is actually a good idea. It gives this person 3 years to become known, 3 years to build trust, 3 years to define themselves before the liberals define them. History has shown us that introducing a leader only months before an election can become very difficult. Remember, was it Kim Campbell? Like, when was it that, not that she was introduced as she was kind of introduced as a leader, Kim Campbell. And she lost big time. So it's tough. It's a tough go. Building national recognition takes time. So if we're going to make the change, the earlier, the better. So the obvious question becomes who? At the moment, there isn't an obvious successor to Pierre Poilievre's national profile, right? And that uncertainty certainly makes the option risky. But Mark Carney, even though he was known, certainly on the world stage, was introduced and came on board, and obviously won. Now he had obviously he was well known in the world. Is there someone out there like a Mark Carney, well known in the world, who's a conservative, who could come on board and showcase themselves? I don't know. So that's option one, dump Pierre Poilievre now. Option two, stay with Pierre Poilievre, right? So this is probably the more likely path. We're going to stay with him, and because listen, who's out there? But I just thought I'd introduce option one because it's bold. Option two, stay with him. Politics can change. Blink, things can change. Unfortunately, people have tried to unalive Donald Trump without success. Well, sorry, I don't want to say that. Unfortunately, people have tried to unalive Donald Trump. That's the unfortunate part. Not that it was without success. So all I'm saying is the political landscape can change in an instant. And that's what happened, as Pierre Poilievre very well knows, as we all very well know. Because 3 years ago, Canada was different. It was a different landscape 3 years ago than now. So now we have Donald Trump dominating North American politics, world politics. Mark Carney is the guy to manage that relationship. Donald Trump can't run again under the Constitution. He cannot run again in 2028. So things may change there, and so the next presidential election could produce a different political landscape, which will change things here in Canada. So if the Republicans nominate someone different than Donald Trump to run in the next election, that could change things for Pierre Poilievre. Because Canadians may no longer feel that they need someone to deal with Donald Trump. They may feel that they don't need someone now like Mark Carney anymore, and that could reopen the political space for Pierre Poilievre. I'm thinking of an example in Britain when Winston Churchill, who was considered one of the most admired leaders in the world, won the election, I believe it was in 1940 in Britain, because he was considered a wartime leader. And so he won. And when the war was over in 1945, he lost. And it wasn't because people stopped respecting Churchill. They just think now it's peacetime. Britain had gone through war, and now they wanted someone who was going to help them now in peacetime, get them out of the issues that had cropped up during the war. So they just wanted a different leader for peacetime. So Mark Carney could be considered a Trump-era prime minister, but not necessarily Canada's post-Trump era prime minister. So that's possible. So post-Trump could be the opportunity that Pierre Poilievre gets his chance to lead this country. So sticking with Pierre Poilievre could be a good move because Trump won't be there, may not be there at the next election, or won't be there at the next election, according to the Constitution. Option three is wait and then decide. In other words, wait, keep Pierre Poilievre, or wait and then change him. Say a year before the next election. In option one, I said dump him now because you have 3 years before the next election. And now option three, I'm saying, well, maybe do dump him a year before the next election. Why? Because of what may happen in Canada and in the US regarding Donald Trump. So option three, I call it wait and then decide. Keep Pierre Poilievre for now and watch how events unfold. So watch the American election, watch Canada's economy, watch whether Mark Carney's promises produce the results that we want. Because right now, Mark Carney is big on ambition, he's big on rhetoric, but he's very small on results. Nothing's changing. So the polling may collapse, right? Um, Things may change in Canadians' minds, right? So circumstances may change. Then the Conservatives could still replace Pierre Poilievre if they think he can't win. But don't forget, politics is about winning. It's about winning the next election. So the problem with this particular option 3 is wait, is time, right? Introducing a leader before the, just a year before an election, gives very little opportunity to build national credibility. So political parties rarely want to enter an election with an unknown leader. Like I said before, is there someone out there, a conservative, who out there on the world stage, who like a Mark Carney, who is like a Mark Carney? Let me know in the comments if there's someone that who you think is like a Mark Carney, who's a conservative, who could win the next election. I'd be curious to know. By the way, guys, like and subscribe as well if you like this content. It will really help the channel. So, where do I stand? Honestly, I don't know. I'm not ready, I'm not ready to answer that question just yet. There's still too much uncertainty. I think the midterm elections in America will tell us a great deal, seeing how those results pan out. I think who emerges as the leading Republican candidates for 2028 will help us as well. We'll see if Canada's economy improves, if we start increasing our GDP, our productivity, getting out of this technical recession. We'll see if Mark Carney's promises produce measurable results. So are we going to see shovels in the ground on that pipeline? Right? We'll see whether voters continue to give him the benefit of the doubt. So, are the polls going to continue showing that they prefer him as leader to Pierre Poilievre? So politics is about timing. You have to strike at the right time. The Liberals did when they dropped Trudeau and brought in Carney. The timing was just right, and they lucked out with Trump coming into office. So right now, the timing isn't clear. So I'm not really ready to give my view on which of those options I think the Conservatives should go with. But this discussion isn't really about Pierre Poilievre. Well, it kind of is, but it's also about democracy, right? Because political parties exist to win elections. This is how we move forward as getting our preferred leader. We vote for parties, we vote for leaders. This is what we do in a democracy. And we believe, we believe in that leader and we vote for them. We vote for that party. We vote for the leader who we think will give us the best chance to improve our lot in life, right? So the decisions are hardly ever personal. Sometimes they may be, but it's very rarely. It's what is best for me, what is best for the country, what is best for my family, who do we think is gonna, improve this country? And then the majority decides. And whether we like it, whether we like the results or not, governments are chosen by the voters. And the challenge for every political party is convincing enough Canadians that their vision deserves that majority. And Conservatives now face that decision. Conservatives are facing quite a big decision, a big strategic decision we'll have to make before 2029. Stay the course with Pierre, change direction, wait for events to change and see. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how we go forward in this country. And I'd really like to hear your thoughts. If you were advising the Conservative Party today, what would you do? What would you do? Please leave a comment. I'd really be interested to hear what most of you would do. Would you go with option 1, dump Pierre Poilievre now? Would you go with option 2, stay with Pierre Poilievre? Events can change. You never know. Run with Pierre Poilievre in the next election. Or would you go with option 3, wait and then decide? Risk introducing a new leader a year before the next election. It might still work depending on who that leader is. Decide at that time. I don't know. You tell me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.